Cycle through. All right, I believe we are indeed live recording. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Rhode Island New Technologies' latest edition of the Fireside Friday series. You may be asking yourselves, where is Mike? Where is Casey? Well, through a combination of unfortunate scheduling issues and Mother Nature deciding to make things extremely difficult here today in New England, you will actually have to deal with me being the interviewer. But luckily, I'm interviewing someone who's pretty awesome and amazing, Avishai Nevel Avi from the Rhode Island Israel Collaborative. So before we hear from Avi, like have him introduce himself, I just want to thank everybody again for joining us, and we'll have some announcements and stuff at the end, but I don't want to talk too much until we hear from our esteemed guest. Avi, after you.
Good morning, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here, and sorry
Okay.
that people have technical issues. We just had a tornado alert here a couple hours ago, and
Yeah.
I'm sure in New England we're not so used to tornadoes. So,
No. Show
anyway,
must go
look,
on.
I hope everybody is okay, and yeah, happy to talk.
Wonderful.
And
Yeah,
thank you
and
for inviting me.
very happy to have you here with us today. I know there's a lot that we can get into. So I wonder, we could go in two different directions, but I think it's always good, in my experience, to hear more about the person first, and then we can go into like what you're passionate about, what you do, why you're so passionate about it. So, you know, yeah, just give me a little bit of information on like your background and all that good stuff.
Sure, happy to share it with everybody on this call. So, my name is Avi Nevel. To those who don't know, but you probably recognize from my accent, I was born in Israel. I came to Rhode Island 40 years ago, 42, for really 4 years. But as lives take you, I joined the company that manufactures testing equipment and laboratory for the textile industry. And when I joined the company, I developed the international part of it. And 7 years after that, I bought the company, which means we made a decision, my wife and I, we're going to stay in Rhode Island as the company was here in Rhode Island. Um, and we were very successful and had the fortune to sell it in 2005, which allowed me to do other things, which I really wanted to do. By trade, I'm a textile engineer. I studied instrumentation, and I have a passion for people, for the international business, and everything that's related to it. So that's a little bit background about me.
Oh, very, very cool. That's awesome. Yeah. And so when people sign up for this and when they look at it later, they're going to see this really interesting thing called the Rhode Island Israel Collaborative, or the RIIC. I've done a little bit of reading into it and really interested to learn more about it. Why don't you take us through a little bit about RIIC, like what it is, what it's all about, and maybe like some of the things you're most proud of that it's been able to achieve in its 6 years, I believe.
Yeah, we just celebrated June 6th, 6 years,
Lovely
and
love. Very nice.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, so as I mentioned, I sold my company in 2005, and I really wanted to get involved in some. I created an international consulting company, Nevel International LLC, and I really was interested to do something that I can give back to the community. When I had my own company, I didn't have time, and I was busy to get the company going. So I thought it would be nice to be involved in two places I really do love. One is Israel and one Rhode Island. As I say, I was born there. And at that time, I started to work with Commerce RI and the people here. And I say, hey, why not have some missions to Israel and we can benefit from here and vice versa. And we started to do it. In 2011, we had the first mission to Israel, business mission, and it was extremely successful. Companies from Rhode Island came and signed agreements. In 2013, we had another mission, and this time it was about healthcare and life science. So we had Dr. Fine at that time leading the delegation. He was the head of Rhode Island Health. Department of Health. We had people from the universities, from businesses, from the healthcare system, on a mission to learn about the Israeli um, ecosystem in health, which at that time we visited universities, research institutions, HMOs, hospitals. The Ministry of Health again was quite successful, and then that led us to the 2016 mission, which again was a general mission. We were supposed to go with the governor, and unfortunately, she was sick just before the mission. But the governor, as the mission went, again, yeah, quite successful connection between companies and organization. And truth of the matter is that after that mission, I was approached by both at that time Secretary of Commerce Stefan Pryor and at that time Israeli Economic Minister to North America, Nevel, who said, we have all those activities that we're doing in Rhode Island. Wouldn't be nice to have a chamber of commerce? So I said, okay. I think at a point, we are really ready to have a chamber of commerce in Rhode Island. And I said to them, I volunteer. Um, and I have to admit, it was kind of, I thought I'll do it kind of part time and we'll do some activities. But so I called a bunch of people and I said, hey, we want to establish the board. And to my surprise, except to one person, everybody said, yes, we're joining you. And the first person I called was Adi Goldstein. She's today the Deputy Attorney General of Rhode Island. At that time, she working with the law firm of Hinckley Allen. She have Israel connection. Her parents were born there. And she said, yes, let's do it. And we started the organization. And in literally 6 years ago, June 6th, it was like our really kind of birthday. Even though we can really started in May, we announced the organization. We took two students that helped us, one from Bryan University, one from Roger Williams University. We created our first webpage and we started with activity. That's 2017. So that's a little bit background how it all happened. And since then, it's definitely took off. And we're very happy because we really achieved multiple things for Rhode Island and Israel. Because maybe I should go back. Our mission, and when we defined it, and it's on our webpage, is very simple: is to connect Rhode Island and Israel in business, academia, and research. Typically, Chamber of Commerce do B2B, but we understood and we felt that within those ecosystems, they interact with each other. So businesses with research, academia, and also we help to the Israeli government here in Rhode Island and vice versa. We kind of a conduit to help to form those relations.
That's really amazing. And it's always so awesome to hear the origin story and the why that's like embedded inside of that. I'm curious because it has been 6 years and it seems like and sounds like a lot of stuff has taken place since then. What would you say have been some of the most like exciting changes and like meaningful milestones that like whenever you think about them, you're like, wow, there wasn't I can't believe we're able to do that. It's just so much different from like the beginning.
Yeah. If you recall, I mentioned that we started in June 17, 2017. And what we wanted to do is connect the whole spectrum, but we wanted to also bring cutting edge. And in 2017, November 2017, we had a conference and we said, let's have a conference on blockchain. At that time, blockchain was something totally new. Well, let's have a conference that I believe it was the first of its kind in Rhode Island. We flew people from Israel. We did it with Salva Regina University as a Pell Center. And we had around 100 people, and the conference was super successful. As a matter of fact, in the beginning, it's kind of a cute story. Someone connected me with Ronen Simantov. He was a CTO of IBM AlphaZone in Israel, which is a accelerator for IBM in Israel. And now, as a matter of fact,
Great. Yeah, I'm familiar with
it
that.
works worldwide. And I called him and I say, hey, Ronen, my name is Avi Nevel. We formed this organization and would love to be the keynote speaker. But truth of the matter, I have money to fly you in, but we kind of, new organization. Would you mind to stay in my house and we'll treat you? And he said, okay. So we had this conference, which was really very successful. We had people from the Naval War College, from um, Salve Regina, we had from the state, and it's kind of opened the door. At that time, Rhode Island had a tender for organization to open a joint development to create centers in Rhode Island. So we talked with Ronan, and we introduced him to Brown University, URI, um, Stefan Pryor, at that time was Secretary of Commerce, and say, hey, you should really create a similar center here in Rhode Island for innovation. Um, and it took some time, and lo and behold, to those who don't know, the RI Hub was formed as a result. Uh, and it's an amazing story because here, Israeli IBM AlphaZone and then IBM International supporting this creation of this hub that between Rhode Island, URI, Brown University, and Commerce RI in Israel. So that's really was kind of beyond what we expected. But sometimes when you start to do things, they have their own dynamics, and I'm really happy about it because when you look at the
Indeed.
RI Hub today, it's a center for innovation in Rhode Island.
It most definitely is. Actually, I want to acknowledge my friend and colleague Jason, who's in the audience with us. We remark all the time upon the fact that in Providence and in the state of Rhode Island, everything is centralized and consolidated so nicely in such a way that like entrepreneurs that are just starting out and are, as always, by default, looking for information, looking for resources, they don't really have to go through that much frustration because everything is so conveniently set up. And I would honestly love to see that replicated in other parts of the country, other parts of the world. And I just wanted to, just acknowledge and thank you and the others over at RIHub who have done, such a great job there. And I wonder, um, you must have witnessed a lot of like just general like startup hub growth and startup innovation happening, over these past 6 years. I mean, what do you think the future may look like in terms of what new ventures and verticals are you seeing grow up in the state, and what are some of them that you think show the most promise in terms of what they're focusing on?
Mhm. Um, yeah, and I have to mention you're correct. One of the nice thing in Rhode Island, we are small, so we don't have many silos. So if I try to help an Israeli company to come to Rhode Island, it takes approximately 2 calls. And if they're a serious company, we can connect them with the Secretary of Commerce,
I love that.
is Liz Tenner, or someone else, whoever we need to help. And that shortens the time. The weakness in Rhode Island, people just don't know about it. And that's what we're trying really to promote in Israel because everybody knows about New York, Boston. And as I explained to another company that we just connected this week with Commissariat and they have a call next week, I said, look, we are not in the company. It's a startup in basically digital health. And I said, look, you're not in the business of real estate. And it's like, what are you talking about? And I said, listen, uh, you know, when you are in the big cities, your money goes to pay for the rent, for the real estate. Uh, in Rhode Island, the rates are much lower, and just a matter if you need to be in the big cities, um, you can do in Boston within 45 minutes, an hour. You can go to New York twice a week, but your cost of the daily expenses on real estate, parking, food, services, um, basically significant lower. So it means that you can put your money into your organization, hire more people, and that's a huge difference. Um, People in Israel don't know it, a lot of them, and around the country. On the other hand, also you have amazing access to all the universities we have here. Brown, RISD, uh, and others. So really, it's nice to have a place where um, you can go and do things very quickly. And I tell a quick story, which is kind of funny.
Please.
When I started to help the Israeli Consul General in Israel, it was in 2011. He wanted some meetings, and we had 10 minutes between meetings, and he said, I'm a little bit concerned. We have 10 minutes, and I said, no, no, no. We have 5 minutes for coffee, and 5 minutes to move from one place to another. And truth to matter, Rhode Island is small, so you can go from everywhere to everywhere. You don't have to lose your time and be in traffic. So time is money, and uh, I think it's a cute story, and but it tells about what Rhode Island is.
It does, and it does tell that story. And I feel like so growing up in the North End neighborhood of Boston here, I saw a business transacted like that all the time. And I think that it's really something special. And it does go back to that word that we hear about all the time. We read about it, bandied about in the ecosystem, which is community. Um, I would ask you, I know it's a little bit of a broad question, but I would love to get your take on this, especially because you sit in such a position where community is a big part of what you do. What do you think community means exactly, both with respect to what you do and like what it may mean for the future growth and prosperity of like the state of Rhode Island?
I think community is very critical because really it's all about networking, and that's one of the things that, as I say, we try to give to Israeli companies that come to Rhode Island or vice versa uh, through our connection in Israel. Think about it: when you come to a place and someone personally meet you and help you, if it's with finding a real estate, help you with finding a place for your children, if you have children where to go. You need to go through the registration, the different processes, and you get someone is basically holding your hand. And this is huge. I mean, if you're in a big state, it's much harder. And when you have that ecosystem where everybody is trying to really help here, and that's one of the things I'm so proud of Rhode Island, basically, that we can, people are really helpful. So I can call anybody, and then I'll get them to talk with them if I need to. On the other hand, if they don't know, they will forward me, and it's going all the way from the governor office. Before was the Governor Raimondo, and now um, with the Governor McKee. They understand it, and it's a pleasure, and it's critical.
Yeah, most certainly is critical. And I think that when we think about ecosystem development, sometimes people tend to focus on the particulars around like what differentiates this in terms of like verticals, what is like the profit potential. But really, I mean, incubating success often starts with being very collaboratively minded and loving like cross border collaborations, which I mean I do, I know you do as well. And what is the relationship been like? I know this is one of Casey's favorite questions and mine as well. So, what has the relationship been like with like the student life, the universities, university innovation labs, which, as we know, are really like hotbeds for really great activity?
Again, because Rhode Island is very small, and it's physically kind of all together. So really, we have I can like separate the three hubs in a sense in the state. And again, to those who don't know, Rhode Island is 90 mile and 60 miles. So it's I can do the probably cross the state within an hour and 20 minutes. And sometime in the big cities, that's what the time to get you 10 blocks if you're in New York or even in Boston when you have a good rush hour traffic. So the three hubs really that one is in the Newport and the Quadnick Island, and their hubs there is really on a lot of focus on innovation in the blue tech technology, which it's huge. You know, the Navy underwater laboratories are there, the Nevel War College, and they have a fantastic hub there to support innovation. So that's kind of the Quadnick, and basically next to it is your University of Rhode Island, which is having its own hub and innovation. In the center, of course, we have Providence, and in Providence we have Brown University, RIIC, um, Johnson and Wales, and then in this area we have the RI Hub. We have a multiple NIMIC, which is basically for innovation, RI Bio for healthcare. And in this kind of in between, I have to mention we have a hub that's very unique. It's called Hope in Maine, which is really an accelerating incubator for companies that would like to do innovation and startup in the food industry. And they have around 400 companies already graduated, and then it's very unique. I think
It
in
is
the East
very
Coast,
appetizing. I've
it's the
I've
only one
been
in the East Coast. So if you have a new business of
indeed.
in the food industry, they get take you from A to Z. Again, people don't know about it, but it's unique. So I talked about the Center Hub, and then we have Northern Rhode Island. You have Bryant University, and as example with them, which is a business school. Northern Rhode Island, and with them as example, we have a really nice program. They have it's called Practicum, which is basically run with by Jacqueline Soslavsky. She's the head of the IT. She's International Business School. She's also a board member for ours, and basically students, fourth year student international, create marketing program for a company. It's a semester of five or four students working together with the professors, and there is a competition. And I'm glad to say, in the last 2 years, in every semester, we have an Israeli company, and that's a unique again, because in past they worked with just basically most of the Rhode Island companies. Um, so the students get to work with an Israeli companies that want to uh, explore entry to the U.S. market, and basically the benefits is both. Students need to learn to work with an international company, and the company gets to work with students into the entry to the US. So it's a win-win and a good example of those kind of innovations and different centers of support that exist in the state.
Fantastic. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more when it comes to, that being a mutual like win-win. Like when we look at companies that are wanting to come to the U.S., I mean, often one of the biggest things that they struggle with, and I think you may have brought this up before, is culture. So trying to understand the culture into which they're moving into, and then vice versa. So, by establishing closer links and learning from one another and doing small projects and initiatives together that are often catalyzed by organizations such as yours. I mean, I would say, I wonder what you think about this too, but I would say that the chance for success increases like the more you have organizations that are recognizing that, yeah, there are some challenges when you're dealing with two very unique ecosystems, but as long as you help facilitate that thoughtfully, things tend to go well.
I agree with you, and I can just give a life
We
example.
love life
My
examples.
the company that I life examples. Yeah, the company that I joined when I came here, and then I bought it 7 years after, was located in a smaller city in Rhode Island. It's called Central Falls, and a lot of people don't know about the place. It's literally 1 square mile. Um, our company, by the time I sold it, we sold in 67 countries around the world, 80% export. And the fact that we were in Central Falls was an advantage in a sense. Number one, our costs of, again, location were relative low. We had the services we needed in Rhode Island, if it's accountants, if it's attorneys, significant cheaper. And yes, when we had patent case against Swiss company and we needed um, different level of attorneys in the patent technology, even though today they have them here. We worked outside of Rhode Island, but in principle, it never stopped us. Uh, and again, I did not want to be at that time after we grew to be in a real estate business. As I say, I wanted to put our money in R&D, and we put 17% of our revenue into R&D and develop technology. So, yeah, it's a big advantage that, and again, we had a close relation with universities around the world in Rhode Island. So it's really we didn't feel it's holding us back, but rather almost an advantage.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so we'll be coming up on 11:30 in just about a minute or so. At that point, I would love to welcome people to ask their questions. And if you weren't able to join us today and you would like us to ask be a question. Just email me, get in touch, and then we're going to be doing some future chats. I hope on a variety of different subjects. But Avi, the last question I have for you before we open it up for Q&A, just for a bit, is we run a lot of events at the New Technology Innovators Organization in Boston, Providence, etc. Um, and one of the things I'm really focusing on these days is trying to figure out, stepping outside of myself, outside of our organization, really trying to put our ear to the ground. What do you think the latest round of like entrepreneurs and even established entrepreneurs, what do you think they're looking for when it comes to going out to events? What do you think are the most valuable things that they're seeking, and how would you like advise other people in the space to to work with that?
Well, I think number one is technology with peers. So if you are in a certain technology, as example, we're going to have an event on age tech coming in October. If you're in this business, you want to learn more what other people are doing, but the networking is critical. So if we can provide the networking, and I think I can summarize it with what I tell my board, which is amazing board, and I have to thank them for where we are because they're very involved. And we told them very simple. It's not what we do, it's because what others do because of us. So our measurement of what is success is not how many members we have, but rather the connection. So if I can take a student or a professional or startup and connect them with the ecosystem, that's success, and that's what those conferences all about. Is one learning, and second networking. As a result of those conferences, we did multiple, probably in the close to 100 connection between Israeli companies and government um, organization and Rhode Island and vice versa. And that's what it is about. Those conference is connection, connection, connection.
Connection is critical. It's one of those things that when I first joined the startup community, I was working for my papa and we were growing a company. And because he was so busy doing the day to day operations, he left it to me to basically be like his marketing co founder. So I would go out to the events and really have a great time because of the way the intentions were set by these organizations, in the New England ecosystem. Like, you will learn, like you said, you will learn, but you will also connect. You will make friends. You will find mentors. And while we're waiting for some of the questions to come in, I want to put like a little call to action out there for you to speak to. We've talked about RIIC. What does it take to become a member, and how can people find out more about it exactly?
Thank you for letting me to do a plugin for the organization. So our webpage is THERIIC.org. As I said, we are a Chamber of Commerce, non-for-profit, all volunteer organization. If you want to be a member, it's simple as go to a webpage, say, I would like to member. There is a button on the top. If you're a student, it's $30. If it's a company, you can start at $100 at the individual. I have to say, to get involved with us, because we volunteers, we don't require you to be a member. We will help you one way or another, and I say that's where we're unique. It's critical for us that we give services and connect the Rhode Island ecosystem with the Israeli and vice versa. And if people find that we do a good service for them, if they would like to support the mission, then we ask them, yes, please become a member. But it's not a requirement. We will help you as much as we can, one way or another. And I say, when I say we, it's not just me as the CEO of the company, it's our board members, it's other members, it's other people in the community. As I say, both in Israel and Rhode Island. That's critical. That we all have one mission is to help. And again, if someone would love to join it, as I say, we do have expenses, of course, web page maintenance, director, insurance. Uh, we have a part-time secretary. So yeah, if you want to join it, we'll appreciate it. But again, our services do not require to be a member, and we want people to connect us and help them.
That's good to know. We had a question come in offline. So, person asked, what would you say at the current time, like the main focus of RIIC is, and also like your like main goal? Does it have to do with like some of the upcoming projects?
Well, jokingly, I said main goal is well, 8 million, 10 million people in Israel, one in Rhode Island.
There you go.
Let's take half of them as adult. So if we connect them, 500,000 with 5 million, that's a nice little goal. But on a more serious side is to continue to connect and do innovation. And I want to mention in brief here quickly, and people should know the Bird Foundation as example, the Industrial Research and Development um, basically organization that belong to the United States government and Israel, and they give joint grant to develop products to market to Israeli and Rhode Island companies. Obviously, not only Rhode Island, but there is for joint funding, very intriguing program. As a matter of fact, just yesterday I talked with Israeli Innovation, and they have a new program they would like to encourage academic institution uh, that develop technology here and gives them some funding to work with Israeli companies, and vice versa. They're looking for Israeli startups to work here with university and joint research. So there's many projects, and we can. That's what we do. We connect people, and hopefully they get fundings for that as well.
Yeah, and I would really, just as an aside, I know we've spoken about this before, and it's kind of a little bit of a preview for folks who are listening. If there is a way, I would love for Rhode Island New Technology to really step up and help with some of like the Bird Foundation stuff to create like unique, pitch opportunities and stuff of that nature. But as we get close to the 43-minute mark, going to start to wrap up here. I want to give you, Avi, a chance to like include any closing remarks, any things you want to say, and then what I'll do right before we close out is just provide some updates on what Rhode Island New Technology is up to.
Sure, Steve. Thank you first for inviting us to talk about our organization. And I have to say, I have to thank to everyone that work with us in Israel and Rhode Island, especially our board and people that volunteers at time. If it's speakers, if it's people that worked at the event, they're all volunteers, and that's remarkable. And I think that's what's unique and why it's so passionate. People so passionate about it because they volunteer about it. Obviously, professionals also are passionate about what they're doing. But I really want to thank them, and I encourage everyone on this call and others. If you have a question, just call us. You have our email. My email is anevel@riic.org, or you can reach to Steve. He'll connect you, and we'll try to do our best to help you. And there's so much going on between Israel and Rhode Island. It's when I start to talk with people, they say, "Oh, we did not know that. We did not know that." As example, I don't know if people know, but the URI underwater archaeology team works very close with the Israeli authorities. And as a matter of fact, if someone from the United States want to do archaeology, uh, underwater archaeology with them, they have to connect to URI. As a matter of fact, it's also technology because they develop also technology. So it's not only archaeology. So it's a good example of kind of hidden gem. People don't know about it. And there are so many
Sure.
others here in Rhode Island.
Yeah, I mean, hidden gem is exactly what it is. I mean, I find that fascinating because as a little kid, I wanted to actually be an archaeologist and go throughout the Levant and try to find hidden treasures under the sea in the ancient places. And that's the thing, too, that I love about having conversations with folks like you, Avi, and also I know that Mike and Casey feel the same. Is like you get into these situations where, you come in with your questions, but then, once the other person starts really sharing, you learn new things on the call. In terms of what we have coming up on the 22nd of September, we're going to be speaking with the founder of Project Insulin, Eric Moyel. And Eric is going to take us through his startup journey, his plans for his company, and then we'll have another announcement to make about who's going to be appearing on the show towards the end of like September. We'll have that announcement next week. But I mean, Avi, it's been very, very awesome getting to know you more on this call and sharing this great conversation. And we will see everybody next time. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much, Steve. And people that want to learn about us, go to our website, go to the blog. You're going to see future event. We have fantastic programs that's coming. As example, one that's very unique is AI and art. It's a whole new spectrum
I'm really
uh,
interested in that.
with RIIC and Venture Cafe. So that's example age tech, which is very relevant also. So thank you so much, and I wish everybody a great weekend.
You're welcome. Thank you, Avi. And you can also check those events that Avi mentioned on our newsletter and throughout our community. We'll send the recording out to everybody once it is done.